They claimed that the video was phony. Cameron would never breach that boundary, they insisted. Then, however, the audio, real, uncut, and raw, dropped. Furthermore, it did more than simply reveal Chrissy. Everything she attempted to bury was destroyed. What did she say then? Oh, nothing significant. Recently acknowledged using Jim Jones as a pawn in a covert spending years behind the scenes with Cam. Worst of all, Cam purposefully videotaped it. This isn't a hip-hop drama about love. The use of burner phones, studio receipts, and a voicemail is betrayal on a courtroom level, a memo capable of ruining a whole legacy. Jim Jones. He didn't yell. He did not weep. He listened as if he had just witnessed his entire brand, his name, and his relationship. Got burned, and he was powerless to stop it. The question now is, was this all planned up from the beginning? Did Cameron have a long-term strategy? Was Chrissy ever truly devoted, or was she just a fashionista? Bomb on the verge of going viral. Hold on tight, because what you're about to hear could spell the death of everything they've worked so hard to create. What's worse than a breakup, do you know? A treachery that was publicized. And that's just what happened between Jim Jones, Cameron, and Chrissy Lampkin in a scandal that has not only completely upended Dipset, but also has the internet wondering. Was it all a lie? It began similarly to any other disorganized internet. Rumor. After some murmurs and a dubious DM leak, an audio file suddenly appears. Not just any sound. We're discussing time-stamped, uncut, and confidential video, purportedly, showing Chrissy Lampkin telling Cameron, not Jim, that she couldn't stop thinking. Concerning him. The worst part is that she says it while laughing and sipping wine, calling Jim a brand rather than a person. Indeed, just a single sentence destroyed 3 group chats and made Twitter into a funeral. However, let's go back a moment. Since this audio release was not unexpected. Insiders connected to Cam's team claim that this was done on purpose. It was neither a slip nor a retaliatory leak from a resentful pal. This was a cold-blooded, planned release from Cameron himself. Why? Because it looks like Cam has finished playing. Good. As you can see, there has been a simmering conflict between Cameron and Jim Jones for more than 10 years. The culture envied their brotherhood, which was formerly the center of Dipset's affection. However, behind the scenes, they were severely damaged by corporate rivalry, creative disputes, and yes, women. Nevertheless, both sides have been playing it cool for years. Music. Let's now discuss the actual audio. This wasn't a secret recording or something that was pulled from a cloud. This was recorded in a private studio apartment, according to people who have heard the entire rendition, not just the 40-second viral clip, where it is said that 2 months ago, Cam and Chrissy connected. Additionally, Chrissy's voice is crystal clear in this clip, no cuts or distortion. Jim still believes that I'm in love with the notion of us, but he's unaware that I've been in love with, I'm with him in interviews, but with you when it's real. She laughs. Gone a long time. Cam remains silent. There is the sound of a flick of a lighter. Then there's a background beat. This is more than just a scandal. This is a sabotage soundtrack. Don't act like Chrissy has been squeaky, tidy. Since the Moran Hotel video was published last year, fans have been suspicious. Do you recall that? That blurry video shows her at 214A, M entering a lavish apartment. M with Reggie, who is wearing a hoodie similar to Cam's in an untrustworthy manner. Chrissy claimed it was her cousin at the time. Cam denied all of it. Jim didn't even answer. One thing is now evident from the audio, though. Cam was present. A ghost was Reggie. There were layers to the deceit. Let's examine what else was in the leak, if that wasn't enough. Chrissy answers without missing a beat when Cam asks her, "You ever feel guilty?" Not anymore. I gave him everything for 10 years. It seems that sneaking behind Jim's back with the one man he trusted the most was part of "now I'm doing me." The problem is that this went beyond retaliation or sex. This had to do with control. Former VH1 employees claim that Chrissy had been griping about Jim's image confining her for years. Chrissy wanted to rebrand, according to one former producer. She didn't want to be the encouraging person, no longer a fiancé. Instead of being the co-star, she desired to be the star. And you know who put her in the spotlight? According to Cameron insiders, Cam has been keeping tabs on Chrissy for several months. Burner phones, secret flights, and discussions. According to one insider, Cam managed her like a CEO, turning a competitor brand around from the inside out, rather than merely dragging her. Now let's talk about Jim Dodge. On the live feed, Jim Jones learned, yes, he was not warned beforehand. There was no courtesy call for him. His aide handed him a phone and whispered something in his ear when he was in the middle of discussing his new record. Jim stopped, glanced down, and listened to the audio. Once more, and then simply shut down. He didn't storm out or flip a table. That's her. He simply stared at the TV and muttered, and Deepet admirers everywhere realized that this was more than just celebrity drama. This was a real-time breakdown of love, loyalty, and legacy. It didn't end there either. Jim's own mother, Mama Jones, appeared on Facebook Live a little while later. Her swollen face, angry tone, and message, I informed him. My youngster wanted his fairy tale, even though I informed him she wasn't correct. Fairy tales are currently in a frenzy due to the actions of the internet does. It went farther. The released audio was compared to Chrissy's previous interviews on Reddit posts. A footage from a 2018 Breakfast Club interview featuring Chrissy saying, Cam is like family, was shared by one user. Nothing like that exists between us. Well, the receipts don't support that, darling. The possibility that this was a planned move is even more startling. Yes, a brand collapse, but a brand transfer. Chrissy and Cam may have been planning their own spin-off, secretly recording talks, compiling clips, and accumulating drama in real time to submit to streaming services, according to some. Consider hip-hop and love from a different perspective. It's unscripted, shocking, and raw. Does that seem unrealistic? Not after learning that Cam's attorney had filed a move to safeguard the intellectual property related to the July-October recordings. Indeed, he is handling this leak as content rather than proof. This is where things become nasty. There were other clips besides the audio leak. There are 2 additional recordings, according to sources. From the claim that Chrissy was heard, asking Mona Scott, "Can we cut that line about Jim?" during the backstage VH1 filming is no longer accurate. I'm merely acting the part. The second was a message left by It Is Now a Meme that Chrissy purportedly tells Cam, I miss the old days when it was just us. Jim's too busy chasing clout. You still see me. This week's hashtag war cry is You Still See Me. It appears on t-shirts, lip syncs on TikTok, and even trivial tweets from unidentified reality stars. We pause there because, at the same time that the Globe began to respond to the disclosure, Cameron himself spoke up. On Instagram, he shared a single sentence. White letters on a black screen with no caption. You ought not to have taken sides. That first post, 9 hours and 4 million likes. Just a digital mic drop, no follow-ups, no hashtags. What happened next, though? Cam was caught off guard by someone using an anonymous burner account, connected to a Dropbox folder that was released by a former VH1 intern. Files, screenshots, travel receipts, and even a picture of Chrissy and Cam getting on a private plane to Turks and Caicos the same week were all included. Jim was admitted to the hospital because fatigue. Yes, it just took place. Suddenly, the fuse was lit once more. For some who believed that the Instagram Live was the fallout, or that the audio release was the finale, it was only the dress. Practice. Not only was what followed scandalous, it killed the link, the brand, and all the lies they believed would never be exposed. The courtroom was full. Jim Jones entered dressed entirely in black, just his mother and lawyer behind him. No smile, no entourage, no chains. Mama Jones was carrying tissues like a weapon while wearing a church coat. Chrissy arrived by herself 15 minutes later. She was dressed as though she was going to a funeral she had created, her hair slicked back and her jaw taut. Perhaps she was, but as Cameron walked in, the tension reached a whole new level. Calm, cool trench coat made of caramel leather, indoor sunglasses, 2 paces behind him. His attorney is holding another folder with the marked Exhibit C. The judge wasted no time. Addressing the harm the now viral tapes have caused to the public should be the first priority. First to stand was Jim's attorney. Citing deliberate defamation, brand exploitation, and emotional distress, he asked for a gag order on all parties. He then handed a printed contract to the judge. Printed agreement. It was authentic. A contract that Jim and Chrissy signed to create a co-branded documentary series, Love is Always Victorious. It contained statements regarding exclusive representation, brand protection, and emotional integrity. The type of documents that stated, "You don't just break hearts, you breach contracts." The judge carefully reviewed each sheet before turning to face Chrissy. "Did you have a romantic relationship with Mr. Giles or Mr. Cameron when this series was being planned?" Chrissy didn't sigh or blink. She only gave one nod. Indeed. The courtroom exploded with just one word. Mama Jones let out a loud, audible gasp that sounded like a soul departing the body. Jim's palm was clasped on the table as he gazed down. White knuckles and quivering lips. "Were you aware that this relationship, if revealed, could damage the credibility of your co-branded content?" The judge asked, and then there was another nod. Yes, the room reacted, but the judge did not. Another person in the gallery retorted, "She doesn't even care, and maybe she didn't because of what happened." To the whisper, "Ugh, she cooked herself." Every suspicion that the internet had been yelling about for weeks was later confirmed. Cam's attorney walked over to the bench. No showmanship, no cautions, just soothing words that gave the whole courtroom. "We want to send in one last recording." The judge gave his approval. A monitor was rolled out by the BIFE. Everyone pivoted. It's static at first, then a voice. Chrissy's, no glam, no makeup, sitting in what appeared to be a production trailer across from Yandandi Smith. "I'm sick of acting," she added. "I love him, but not to the extent that he requires. I only wanted a moment, but Jim wants forever. I got that from Cam." Yandandi fidgeted and appeared uneasy before saying, You realize this won't remain a secret, don't you?" Chrissy chuckled as she took a sip from a solo cup. "It will leak if it does. I've spent 10 years in hiding." "Bring on the fire." The screen went blank as we returned to the courtroom. Until he spoke, hardly one moved, not even the judge. "Chrissy, is this footage authentic, Ms. Lehman?" "Indeed. Are you aware that this calls into question your assertions of good faith in your joint ventures?" "I do, Chrissy." The damage dropped, but the gavel did not, due to the fact that Jim's team formally filed a countersuit alleging emotional fraud, deliberate misrepresentation, and brand manipulation after that tape was recorded. Now it was more than simply personal. It was federal and financial. However, a court clerk intervened and whispered something in the judge's ear, just when things were starting to become too much. After giving a nod, he uttered the words that transformed the scandal into a potential criminal inquiry. "Homeland Security has provided documents to this court. In a current prosecution alleged nonprofit misappropriation and digital tampering related to footage mentioned in earlier hearings, Ms. Lampkin is now a person of interest." Shocks. Oral shock. A folder was dropped on the floor by Mona Scott's assistant, who was sitting quietly at the back. The lawyer for VH1 got up right away. "We protest, Your Honor. This is not part of the authority over this matter." The judge put an end to it. "Noted objection, but this will be resolved." It appeared as though someone had taken the wind out of Chrissy's attorney, and Chrissy seemed shaken at last. She looked down at the table. Her hands began to shake. She said nothing. Cam is watching everything like a man at the film's debut, which he directed, himself. And Jim got to his feet, walking slowly and deliberately to the middle of the courtroom, without seeming boisterous or irate. He turned to face Chrissy. After the judge gave his approval, Jim only said, Was any of it Chrissy didn't respond? For me, or was I just the cover story? She was unable to. Cam's smirks and Mona's protestations were overshadowed by the stillness that ensued, which was louder than the audio and the leak. When a man realized his true love was just loyal to the plot, he remained silent. The press was already on fire when the court called a brief respite. Before Jim left the courtroom, TMZ, Shade Room, every untidy YouTuber, and The Door were already snipping the video into little segments. Within minutes, the hashtag became popular. Chrissy admits that Cam was the mastermind. Jim was tossed, as he deserved. Improved exposure of VH1 files from Homeland Cam. Then the last blow was delivered. Cameron's team tweeted a teaser trailer during the court break, a 30-second clip. In a hotel room, Chrissy is conversing on the phone while sporting a hoodie from the Dip set. Jim is traveling. I have 2 hours. Are you coming or not? There's a voice downstairs already. The screen goes black. The text gradually appears. The video that they attempted to conceal. Returning to court shortly. It was radioactive energy. The judge seems exhausted as well. After resuming the hearings and requesting closing statements from both legal teams, he postponed until the following week to evaluate the final motions. In actuality, however, the decision had already been made in the eyes of the public, the media, Jim, and every confession Chrissy vowed never to make. Jim's crew had already removed every picture of Chrissy from his social media accounts by the time he left the courthouse. Mama Jones was spotted sobbing quietly in the corridor but would not talk to the media. Chrissy went out the back door, just a black sweatshirt, big sunglasses, and the silent knowledge that her truth had been broadcast on television. No remarks. Warning. Tail Cam remained. Not right away. He remained in the courtroom lobby, drinking coffee and conversing with his attorney. He never stopped grinning. Why now? A journalist asked him. Cam simply grinned and replied, I waited for the right ending. Then, as if the credits were rolling behind him, he left. One final leak appeared on the internet a few hours later. Chrissy sent a text message to a contact saved as MSY, Mona Scott Young, via a burner phone. He saw the message that said, delete everything. Is aware that it is over. However, nothing was removed. It was all archived. It is now a part of the world. B, the love story is over. The brand was a huge success. The reality that never stops playing. After half an hour, everyone had returned to their seats. The energy had changed, though, this time. No one, not even the judge or the court, gave Chrissy any attention. Not even her own attorney, but reporters. She sat by herself as if the world had become thinner and remorse had finally taken hold of her. Jim Jones sat with his arms crossed and his face expressionless. Not heartache, not rage, simply done. A man whose words were no longer necessary, for the truth had already cried out for him. Then, as though the devil handed the case to his helper while taking a lunch break, with a flash drive secured in an evidence bag labeled HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, the clerk entered again. After plugging it into the courtroom system and opening it like it was burning through his gloves, the judge turned to face the room and declared, this contains sealed surveillance audio and metadata files pertaining to Ms. Lampkin, Ms. Scott Young, and the administration of donations linked to a nonprofit organization with a VH1 affiliation that was established in 2021. Everyone sat motionless. Chrissy's lawyer protested right away. This has nothing to do with the current issue, Your Honor. The judge, however, cut it off once more. We're not talking about innocence. It is permissible, and that is what we are talking about. The initial file began to play. Once more, it was Chrissy's voice. During a phone conversation, background probably backstage at a VH1 event, the sounds matched a trailer. I instructed Mona to reroute that funds. Jim didn't have to be informed. We advertised the gala using his name. That's all. The remainder was used to manage post-production. A second voice answered. Manage post-production. A second voice answered. Women. Anxious. Chrissy. That is deception. Chrissy gave a bland response. It's television, no. The video paused. The courtroom remained stationary. Remained motionless. This was more than simply a betrayal of the heart. Potential federal wire fraud was involved. In charitable materials, Jim's name, image, and reputation are leveraged to divert contributions back into unapproved production expenses. Jim's attorney rose once more. We respectfully ask for your prompt permission to include these facts in our current motion for emotional sabotage and brand defamation. The magistrate gave a nod. The motion was approved. That's when the lawyer for VH1 stood. Pale and obviously perspiring, he mumbled something to an assistant before turning to the judge and requesting permission to speak to the court in chambers. The judge rejected it. This was presently open to the public. This went viral. Behind oak doors, this was too large to be contained. The lawyer for VH1 stated, "We didn't know about the secondary production or the financial routing. Logs or unapproved video?" Ms. Scott Young and the judge inquired. The representative paused and declined to speak. She was, of course, due to Mona Scott Young, had vanished into thin air. No public declarations, no communications, not even a mysterious Instagram quote. Nothing. She was aware of the impending tidal wave. She was halfway there already. Reached the bunker, but the tsunami had struck the court again. At last, Chrissy said something. She is confessing, not defending herself or denying anything. She got to her feet by herself. When she added, "I messed up," gently. Not to Jim, not to the judge, but not to anyone. I kept telling myself that I could balance the show, the image, and my own emotions. I believed that I could mend and love him in public. Private, but both sides of myself were gone. Jim avoided eye contact with her. "Not once," she added. Cam was genuine. Jim was too. I simply stopped being honest with them both. After then, it became a show, a machine, and something I was unable to escape. The judge gave her permission to go on. Perhaps out of interest. Perhaps because no one wanted to write the script's last page. Chrissy concluded by saying, "I'm sick of hiding behind the scenes, so I want the truth on record, but I don't expect forgiveness from Jim, the fans, or anyone else." She took a seat, and that was all. Nearly a minute of silence. The judge then spoke. "Considering how strong the evidence is, the contradicting business awaiting a final hearing, this court will grant all motions for damages, taking into account the public entity's interests and the possibility of continued injury to their reputation. This judge is also sending the nonprofit case to federal investigators for additional research." Although it wasn't formally over, on an emotional level, Cameron was gone already. He did not await the ultimate decision. He added another item to his story. Just one sentence. "She just spoke louder than I have ever heard." It played underneath a clip from Dipset's. Once more, Chrissy went out the back. This time there is no security. No entourage. No. Mona Jim was the last to leave. His group attempted to nudge him in the direction of a press exit. He dismissed them. He entered the crowd through the front door. Flashing cameras. Reporters screamed, but he remained silent. Closing the door, he climbed into his SUV and drove away. The internet was ablaze once more by dusk. Reddit was struck by a VH1 staff conversation breach. Screenshots of Mona's final internal message prior to the scandal hitting the courtroom were leaked by someone inside the production. "We're done if that footage leaks," it said. The comments went viral. She used his trauma as a storyboard. Chrissy didn't lie on TV. Jim doesn't know half of what was scripted. Let legal handle the rest, she practiced. VH1 will soon be the next Fire Festival. Then there was another drop. An anonymously posted video revealed a sequence that was cut out of the Netflix trailer Jim and Chrissy was working on when he asked, "Are you prepared to create a season or a life with me?" Laughing, she asks, "Why not both?" However, there is no longer a season, life, or future. Mona's name was removed from the website. VH1's press contact disappeared. Netflix withdrew. Sponsors withdrew. Production stopped. And the series was scrapped within a day. Jim's bio said, "Rebuilding. Don't ask me nothing." The intern who ever handled a camera close to Chrissy Lampkin began cleaning their LinkedIn. And by morning, Chrissy had been unfollowed on Dipset's official Instagram. Chrissy merely uploaded a black square with no description or explanation. Thousands of people flooded the comment area. Was it worth it? Cam sold a tale, you sold your soul, and you broke the last loyal one. However, Cam's announcement of the full release of the video they attempted to hide, a 3-part series that airs next Friday, and the trailer doesn't even start with Chrissy. Instead, it starts with Jim sitting by himself on a rooftop, clutching a glass, in a scene that never broadcast, stating, "I've dedicated my entire life to defending those who merely required a platform." The concluding words, "The true story was never about love," followed by stillness and a blackout. It concerned loyalty and the first person to kill it. There is nothing left to defend, not the brand, not the image, not even the past, just 3 names as the entire world watched in silence and addiction. Jim. Now that everything is in the open, including the confessions, the footage, and the courtroom collapse, we must ask, what was real? Chrissy, Cam, and a legacy that will never be able to move on because the footage is out and will never go away. Was it the devotion Dipset said to be founded on? The love story we all cheered for? Or was it all a meticulously crafted delusion put together by producers, fed by lies, and presented to us as permanent? Cameron didn't simply release a recording, and Chrissy entered that courtroom and ripped it apart. One statement, one voicemail, one silence at a moment. Because Jim Jones didn't just lose a partner, he lost his legacy. Now it's your turn. Do you think Chrissy ever loved Jim? Or was it just the truth that he took with him when he lit the entire machine on fire? Don't hold back. If you're still with us and still in disbelief, use the like button to keep this story going. If you're still with us and still in shock, hit the like button. Was Cam her savior or her strategy? You should hit subscribe and ring that bell if you want to see every leaked clip, courtroom twist, and covert treachery before the internet buried it. This story is far from over, and the next release might simply revise everything you believed you was aware. Everything you believed you was aware.